So the group, The Walking Dead, finally is all back together, but they didn't all get out of the hospital alive. Welcome back, everyone. This is Jason. Um, I wanted to do this review last night. I was ready. I was ready to do it as far as I wrote my notes down, what points I wanted to make and stuff. Um, I don't know. It was a rough weekend, and I'm not going to get into details why. I'm just going to say, for me personally, it was a rough weekend, and just watching this episode just kind of, you know, put me over the edge a little bit. So I wasn't up for doing it last night. So uh, started a new job this week, and I'm in a bit of a better mood today, and so yeah, let's get into this. Uh, this is going to be my Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 8, Coda review, the mid-season finale. Yeah, we knew going into this, if you're a fan on Facebook or wherever, and you see the articles and you see the people talking about this and the interviews, you knew something horrible was going to happen at the end of this. Um, and it was just a matter of who and when. And man, well, let's start at the beginning. I'm not going to go through every single little point, but just to cover some of the main things that happened here. Um, we first leave off, and Rick is trying to chase down Bob because he had gotten away, and he was still um, tied up, hands behind his back and running for his life. A, just trying to get out of there. B, trying to get away from the walkers. Well, Rick catches up to him, and he's driving after him, driving around the walkers, and he's like, "Stop, stop!" And, um, and Bob doesn't stop, and he just plows into him, which was like, so right there it was like, whoa, and he's like, "Oh, I think you broke my back," or something like that, and he's just, he's curled up in a fetal position on the ground, head down, bleeding, not really moving except for he's talking, and Rick's like, "I told you to stop," and gets back up, uh, aims at his head and blows his head off, and just wow, just that right there. I want to talk about that just for a second. It was shocking. It really was. It was one of those things where Rick had a plan in mind. He wanted to bargain. He wanted to barter with these cops or wannabe cops or whatever you want to call them. Bargain with, make a deal with Dawn, who was the head of the hospital, for Carol and Beth. And now this guy is screwing up his plan, and he's had it. He's absolutely had it. Between leading up to Terminus, surviving Terminus, uh, man, he's. They said on the Talking Dead after this episode airs something to the effect of he has evolved into what Shane was at the end of season 2. And I see that. I don't see it completely, but I see a lot of that. I mean, you mess up once with Rick and that's it. He gives you one chance, and if you screw that up, you're done. He's done with you. He'll end you just, like that. So that was that was a heck of a way to kick off this mid-season finale. Then we're dealing with Father Gabriel, and he had actually gotten out of the church, escaped. I don't know, can you call it escaped? I guess you can call it escaped. It's not like he was a prisoner. They had boarded up the church for their own protection because it was Carl, Michonne, the baby, and Gabriel, and they were trying to convince him that he needed to protect himself. Well, he got out and wanders over to the school, and he sees what's left of the Terminus group's site, Bob's leg, the other Bob. he's just he's not ready for this world yet. He's so into what he was just getting by with day after day after day. He's not ready. He's a hot mess. He really is. He's just not ready for this outside world at all. He doesn't know how to cope with being chased, um, by all the walkers and everything. He doesn't know how to comprehend all this yet. So it was one of those moments where I caught myself actually yelling at the TV. It's like, oh, are you seriously gonna lead all these walkers back to the church? Oh, you ass! I'm sort of yelling and laughing at the same time. It's like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah, sure enough, he almost crawls back into the hole where he came from, where he escaped from, and then he couldn't. He doubled back, went around to the front where all the posts are sticking up, trying to ward off or defend the church itself, stop the walkers from advancing. And he's just losing it. He's like, let me in, let me in. And Michonne is like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. We got to let this guy back in. Now, what's he doing outside? Well, they rescue him. And then somehow, some way, get through the church, double back, and, lock them in the church. And that was the first foreshadowing, in a sense, of, for me, was kind of like a rewind to was it the first season? Yeah, the first season, the first episode, where Rick is in the hospital. He comes across the door. It says, dead inside, do not open. And the hands are, creeping through, and this was like the same way, the church doors were boarded up and the hands were, poking through and, trying to get out. So that was kind of funny. I thought that was interesting. Then we see Abraham's group with Glenn and them come back to the church, and that scene is like, it's like, oh yay, because they were about to get out, and obviously it was too much for Carl and Michonne to handle, because they had the baby and they had to protect Father Gabriel. And so the fire truck comes up, blocks the door, and they hop out, and they're like happy that they're back together. Glenn's looking around and he's like, where is everyone? And all of a sudden Michonne's like, Beth is still alive, and she's in the hospital in Atlanta, and telling this to Maggie, and all of a sudden there's that little bit of hope that it's been addressed from different people I've seen review this season, that Maggie really hasn't mentioned her sister at all, and other than the episodes that she's been in, we've seen Daryl talk about her a little bit, as in, what happened? Oh, well, she was with me, and then she was taken. There wasn't much else to say. They just didn't know. Well, now they know, and now they're gonna go get her. And Maggie's she's overwhelmed with happiness, and that's, it's one of the few highs in the episode where you're like, oh yeah, let's all go, let's do this. We also see Beth struggling inside the hospital, kind of, I guess you could say, forming a relationship with Dawn, a very strange one. Dawn, one moment you think she's, normal and just sensitive and coping, and then you find out how, no, she's twisted inside. She really is. I'm sure she has some good inside of her, but she just, has a funny way of showing it. And just to see how Beth's character has changed since we first met her in season 2. She was this timid little girl who was emotional, then pretty much borderline suicidal, and she's just gotten tougher and tougher and tougher as the seasons have gone on, and now she's just become this little badass. And oh man, this has been a great season for her. Watching her really, I don't want to say grow up, because she was grown up. She just, all these different characters had to become tough, tough for this world, be able to cope with this world at their own pace. And Beth has finally come to that point where she's like, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll go through, I'll go through walkers. I'll attack people to survive. And she did. We saw that in the hospital. She really, from Gorman to walkers and whatever, she really did. She really did it all. And so then, yeah, we see, Rick's group is, at the hospital. They're doing the trade-off, the two officers for Carol and Beth, and it seems like, it's like, the standoff between the two. They're in that creepy looking hospital hallway, and just the atmosphere, it's so tense you can cut it with a knife. And then all of a sudden the trade goes well, everything's going good, and all of a sudden Dawn's like, no, it's not good enough. I want Noah, because you're taking people away from me, so I want Noah. And then Noah is trying so hard to just not let the situation escalate to something horrible, because everyone's got weapons and everyone's just ready to snap at a moment's notice. And and Beth gives him a hug, as in to say goodbye. But as she's saying her goodbyes to him and hugging him, Dawn's like, I knew you'd be back. She's all cocky, like, yeah, they all come back, just like she said earlier in the episode. And then the look the look from Beth, she was just staring her down, and it was like, whoa, you could tell that little thing snapped inside of Beth's head, got in her face. And earlier in the episode, you saw her with the scalpels, I think, or scissors or whatever it was, and right as she stabbed Dawn, the gun was already out, and like the shock from Dawn, pulled the trigger, and just the bullet just went straight up through her head, and was just, wow, it just all happened. The blood splattered back on Rick, and oh man, you knew something bad was going to happen. You just didn't know exactly who or when it was going to happen. And when it happened, it just was like, wow. And and Daryl didn't even hesitate then, and then took out Dawn immediately. Just boom, blew her in the head. But then there was an immediate alarm, and then an immediate, no, wait, stop, let's stop this, it's done, it's even. And then of course the next scene, we see Abraham, Glenn, and all of them, Maggie, showing up to the hospital, and their guns are drawn, they're ready for whatever, because they don't know this place. They think something bad's obviously, they're ready for whatever. And Rick comes out, And as he's walking down the steps and walking out, he's doing this. He's shaking his head and then walks off. And they kind of zoom in on Maggie, and she goes from happy, like, we're there, oh, they're coming out, great, to drops the gun, and she just falls. She just collapses in one heap of emotion. And Daryl's carrying out Beth, and man, that was a rough scene to watch. That really was, because all they wanted was everyone to go home. That's all they wanted. They didn't. It wasn't like fighting the governor. It wasn't like fighting the group from Terminus. Darrow's like, look, let's go in there and let's just get them. We're just everyone's coming home. That's it. And it couldn't happen. So yeah, that was sad. And it was even more sad if a lot of fans who watch The Walking Dead. If you watch The Walking Dead, a lot of fans watch The Talking Dead, the after show. The discussion, everything about the past episode. Kirkman was on there. A comedian was on there. I can't remember what his name was, but the girl who plays Beth, Emily, I can't think of her name. Emily Kinney, I think that's what her name is. I'm sorry. She was on there, and she was so emotional through the whole show, and it just, wow. And it just goes to show how passionate, people are about this show. And in a sense, this cast of characters, they shoot the episodes, and they're obviously under, they can't expose, if someone passes away, if someone's killed on the show, if someone died, what episode, they're sworn to secrecy. They got to keep that all in, and now all of a sudden, Emily can finally let that out and talk about it, and just boom, just all the emotion comes out from the episode, and holding it until now. And it was just, wow, it was really intense. Good mid-season finale. I don't think it was as crazy as others. This one was just a lot more emotional. Decent action in it, with the walkers and stuff at the church, with Michonne and Father Gabriel and all that. But so yeah, this whole that's pretty much what this whole. I mean, yeah, everyone had their own stuff they were dealing with, but one of the main things going into this season was, where's Beth? Is she okay? And well, this they say if you die on The Walking Dead, you have to earn that death. She earned it. I mean, she came, like I said earlier, she matured, she really grew up, and man, she was really, she went from one of those characters where I think people were kind of annoyed with her with her singing, and she was so kind of flighty, ditzy, whatever you want to call it, to she ended up being a total badass, pretty tough. It was pretty great character all around. And well, now we have to say goodbye to her, and yeah, it was sad. And we see Gabriel at the end of the episode. Not Gabriel, excuse me, Morgan. I'm not going to get into that. I might do another video down the road somewhere talking about Morgan's part in this, and also I might do some predictions for the next season, possibly where they're going to go, talking about, you know, dealing with all this in the mid-season finale. So I'm not going to talk about that now because I don't want to drag this out forever. It's already going on 20 minutes. So yeah, great episode. Season 5 is just, you know, a lot of fun. Certainly different from others. Started out gangbusters and ended in a ton of emotion. So yeah, that's it for this one. I might do more over Christmas break as far as Walking Dead videos. We'll see. The channel is growing, and thank you. It's growing all the time. You know, whether you're a Walking Dead fan, wrestling fan, whatever. Thank you. So yeah, that's it for this one. We'll be doing one on Morgan and maybe some prediction ones within the next couple weeks leading up to Christmas. All right. Thanks for watching, guys.